Hello, our friends, evolutionary energy arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Oh my gosh, we got family in the house. Starting with number one, Jenna and the Birds. KK is in second place today, and Robbie is in third. And wow, you know what? We love you guys like crazy love.
Indeed. Thanks for coming in and showing up and moderators for keeping everyone happy and content and welcoming everybody. Hello there, Quintress. Good to see you. Good to see you as people start rolling in. There's good old Sin Havoc. Good to see you too. Oh my goodness sake. Yes. And Susan Donahue, Brian. Hello, hello.
Yep, and good to see you, Quintress, over in the DC area. Inspire me, yes. And Sita wanted to say hi too, guys. Are you ready to rumble? Yes, that's what it feels like. It's kind of crazy out there. You know, um, let's take a look, just see if anything's happened that was new in the last several hours over on the USGS. Well, that's kind of unusual. Looks like Chicago had an earthquake. Really? I'm not kidding. 2.9, 2.9, 5 kilometers deep. So when you're looking at 5 kilometers depth, I'm thinking that's some sort of tunnel action going on, military base action. You can see where this is. I'm not too familiar really with the Chicago area, so I'm not sure if we have military bases in the area, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did. Anyway, 2.9, literally northeast of Chicago. That's a little bit interesting, I would say. Do you feel anything with this one?
Yeah, it definitely feels awkward and out of place, but at the same time deliberate. So I don't, I think this was, the energy around it just doesn't feel right. It feels the best way I can explain it is it's out of place. There's no flow with it. It just doesn't fit. It's like forced. It feels forced. So I would say technology, like something forced it. And let's see, we got more and more people in the room. Good to see you. Miss Elena, Tracy. Awesome. Hi, Ray. Good to see you. Brian. Thanks, you guys. Lucid Farms, Jenny Peace, Rudy. All right, we're getting a house full here.
Mm. Yeah, so the biggest quake in the last 24 hours was over in Vanuatu of 5.8, 10 kilometers depth, and we have 5.5 in the Baleine Islands region, 10 kilometers depth there as well, and Tonga, 5.4. So a rather average, normal, typical day, besides, again, the quake by Chicago, which definitely hits me as a little strange. But you will see them from time to time. You'll see them up in Lake Erie. You'll see them certainly also going on through the St. Lawrence waterway from time to time. So energy is going to travel, and it's just a question of whether it's natural or artificially enhanced, because there's both that go on.
Oh, for sure. There's always, the two going on, and it really, I think, can create a lot of havoc in our energy field, as if there's not enough going on. I mean, we have a lot going on. Um our shields are down and things are active. I mean, that's really going to affect our bodies. And we talked about CERN the other day and in a members, and there's more information coming out on that, but it's really important that we continue to recalibrate and find our grounding while CERN is not functioning right now. There's other CERNs out there, but this specific CERN had a different way about it to affect our energy fields. And now that that's not currently active, We are being able to recalibrate and process those things that we need to process in the way that we need to process it that's most advantageous. So that's something that had been um, kind of, I don't want to say removed, but we were on a delayed path, and now we are not on a delayed path.
And the sun, everything is relatively quiet. We just had basically a smaller M-class flare. And we did have one that sent a CME out into space away from the Earth. So everything seems kind of quiet that way as well. And we'll take a look at the Schumann and see what that looks like too. Now giving me a connection. This is unusual. I wonder if they're down today. Yeah, it's the robot screen challenge. Yeah, nope. I have the VPN off. So anyway, that's just the sign of the times too, because there's a lot going on there. Again, with security, with laws going into effect, which we're going to talk about. We want to thank everybody that's supporting us over on Patreon and also with memberships on YouTube and also on Ko-Fi, because we couldn't do it without you guys and all your help. Well, here we go. Back to bombing Iran again. Trump, as you see the post here, Trump's dropping bombs on Iran, second consecutive night. No peace, no ceasefire. Did you really expect there was going to be a ceasefire? This is Bushehr in Iran as well. Power outages going on there. You know, again, all these different countries, remember that quote from General Wesley Clark, we're going in, this is back in 2001, we're going into 7 countries, and originally it was 5 years. Well, you know, the 7 countries, all of them have been hit now. Every single one that was mentioned back in 2001 had been hit, Iran being the very last one. But it just shows you that these things have been planned for decades and decades, maybe even much longer than that.
Well, it's like they have this ability to see, you know, a certain way into the future, and that really puts us at a disadvantage because they're utilizing that in ways that we could never really anticipate. It's a very uneven playing field that desperately needs an equalizer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, you know, again, multiple cities. This is ongoing right now. And Russia today, Trump says ceasefire is over. U.S. Central Command said the latest round of attacks was aimed at securing maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Wasn't that what we had said for the previous ones? I mean, you know, again, you get very, very tired of seeing the same old, and them making like they're really trying to do something to truly stop it all. But we know that's just acting. It's just acting. They again, make so much money off of war. The profits of war maybe are only surpassed by the profits of, again, the medical system. Those two, they're the ones that make so much money off of, unfortunately, misery, death, and suffering. This is just the reality. And I know everybody that's here wants to see real change. And I am concerned with, you know, again, if change is not going to come quick enough for some, that they don't get discouraged. Because, again, this is a marathon. We are turning yugas, turning ages that last for thousands of years. So, again, it takes time, but we are all looking forward to seeing peace break out and honesty, because there's no honesty in this world when it comes to the upper echelon of those that are making the decisions. They say one thing, but they do something completely the opposite almost every single time.
Well, it's really hard. We need to come together in ways that are difficult, and many people have traumas, they have insecurities, they have certain fears, and it makes it difficult to come together and do what we need to do. But it's kind of time to swallow that and face things and be able to just do the next right thing. You know, do the next right thing by another person so we can work together. Without working together, we're not going to get out of this.
No, and of course we've had the World Cup ongoing. There's so many different things that people are saying when you look at everything, the situation in the world. What is competitive sports? There are those that believe competitive sports were developed so that we wouldn't literally go to war and kill each other. We would just do competition, get that testosterone out in a less deadly way. And yeah, at sometimes when we see sporting teams win, the public goes crazy and literally tears everything apart, which doesn't seem to make logical sense. Here you have all sorts of. I'm just looking at some of the headlines in Al Jazeera. Egypt criticizes influential refereeing in Argentina World Cup match. It's a sign of the times. And yeah, this type of thing has been going on for a long time. The U.S. lost a critical match. And, you see different takes depending on where we are. Can you imagine if we ever tried to actually work together instead of always working against each other? But it doesn't ever pop into the minds of most of the masses, which is, again, a situation that is brought about because of the conditioning of the masses. It's what we've been brought up with. They pass along traditions. And one of the traditions that we have is, the Soccer World Cup, right? Same thing with the Olympics that goes back, again, thousands of years. And in fact, we get the word marathon that comes again from going back to marathon in Greece and, running 26 miles. It was supposedly attributed to originally to a message having to be given to field commanders, again, about where the enemy was location wise. And the runners, ran until they literally died to get the message out there in time. I think the message is, though, we have to change our mindset. We have to look at things in a different way. I think that's starting to happen. Here you go. This video may contain light patterns or images that could trigger seizures or cause discomfort for people with visual sensitivities. Why do you think that is? Why do we see all these warnings in today's society? When you go to a DR, and if you go to Western medicine, they're going to give you a prescription for something that's going to have a laundry list of potential problems that it is literally going to possibly create that are brand new and not the reason why you're there in the first place. But they have to do that because, again, they don't want to get sued. They don't want to fall into the legal system, so they have to do it. It's really a sad case when you have things being done and the reason why they're being done is not the reason that they're telling you. Do any politicians ever tell the truth? I think that's, a real legitimate question.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's time we have to look at things. And although I do believe that anyone and everyone on the planet, whether they be human or a different type of entity, has a higher frequency and a lower frequency, and they have a choice about how they want to express that frequency, and if it's going to do more harm or is it going to do more good. No matter what type of being it is, that choice is there. That choice is there. And I do feel that the sun is coming in such a way that it could be um helping those that are in charge work with the higher frequencies of themselves, with themselves, in order to bring about a world that's just better. I mean, I'm hopeful. sometimes things look very, very bleak, but I stay on that side of hope because I know that my emotions and my intentions, they matter, they count.
Yes, absolutely, it matters and counts. And again, it's what we personally cultivate. We were talking again about how modern pop culture is in so many ways so repulsive to so many people at this point in time that if it was all washed away, I think a lot of us think that it would be a much, much better world. Here you go, 2 o'clock. U.S. judge ordered the DOJ to unredact the e-files, which named alleged co-conspirators. 5 o'clock, Trump rejected the court order to hand over redacted e-files. 8 o'clock, Trump begins bombing Iran and the war is restarted. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody and his mother figures that Israel has information on 47 that's been threatened to be shared. And this is why 47 is doing what 47 is doing. I think that's probably the majority position out there right now. That's just a guess.
Yeah, it's just a guess.
Meanwhile, China test launches nuclear capable ballistic missile in Pacific, alarming neighbors. The Chinese Navy on Monday test launched a strategic missile from a nuclear sub in the Pacific Ocean in the framework of its annual military exercise. We had talked the other day about China and Russia conducting annual military exercises together. We've also talked about the fact that there's so many different people out there that have had visions of literally the U.S. being attacked by China and Russia, other nations, the BRICS nations, at some point in time. Again, things don't happen right away, and people think that, it's just not going to happen, and then you get that Chicken Little syndrome where it's always, nothing ever happens. The sky is always falling. But the reality is, to people that have lost everything that they owned in, say, the floods up in Waynesville and Asheville, back a few years back after the hurricanes, or anybody that's lost everything in Katrina or Harvey, or the people that just lived through the Venezuela earthquakes, to them, oh, yeah, things are happening. Again, it's that short-sightedness. We were having a great discussion, one of our favorite people, and we were talking about that touchy subject, NPCs, and other types of souls. Is there such a thing as a reptilian soul? Is there such a thing as, a non-playing character, somebody that doesn't have the same higher self that we talk about when we talk about our higher selves? In some traditions, the stars themselves are our higher selves. When you think about it, that's beautiful poetic justice and license. When you look at it from the perspective, can you imagine that our higher selves are stars that help create planets, which then help have the ability to support life, that then a tiny portion of us, an aspect of us, comes into an embodied existence, a 3D embodied experience, to have an experience in a world that ultimately we took part of creating in the first place, and we're still watching it at the same time from a higher perspective as what we would call a star. Science gives you it's just a ball of gas, that's all. But no, ultimately everything is consciousness. And when we look to the size of orbs, spirit orbs of a typical human spirit, and then you look at, say, a sun in comparison, it's obvious it's holding a lot more light, which is information and knowledge. It is really, it's to me, it's poetry to think of it in that way.
I've heard the controllers talk about, harnessing the power of the stars, and what I felt from that is by controlling us, they are then harnessing the power of the stars by controlling our every breath, our every move, what we eat, what we drink, what we say, what we think. they have then harnessed the power of the stars. And I think that's very unfortunate, because that's the road we're going down. They want to control everything, and it's just getting worse, and it's nauseating. I do not want my energy controlled. I am going to completely remain free and sovereign, and do what I can to heal my mind, body, and soul. That's so important that we heal our souls, because with that healing, that's where the balancing is going to come back. And that's where the large scale healing really happens, when people get super serious about healing themselves.
Yes, Amanda and Susan, apocalyptimus. That's a great term. And yes, we have a Mama Jan, aka Unicorn Purple, in the house. And, again, we love all you guys. And Lena, I'm glad that you like that. Again, those things, they're wonderful realizations. And to me, they make perfect sense. Perfect sense. The stars, when you look at them, why do they waver and shimmer? It's just like light in a pool. You ever been on a bright sunny day underwater looking up at the sky? That's exactly what stars look like when you start looking at them up close. It's as if they're in water, but I think, again, space is not a vacuum. No, it's full of life. It's more of an ocean. So that's another realization to have. What if we are living in a bubble, so to speak, under the ocean? Yes, the bigger ocean. I think that, it feels right.
Well, yeah, if you look in a pool and you see the sun going through the water, you see that particular pattern, and we see that in the stars, we see that in the sky, we see that everywhere. I mean, we are definitely very special beings who've not tapped our specialness yet. Robbie, thank you so much. We appreciate your support, brother Robbie.
When I was running the
And running the gauntlet. I saw Robbie back there too, and I missed it, but I remembered it.
Oh, yeah,
Yes, there he is. Thank you. And running the gauntlet, we appreciate that a lot. Running the gauntlet says, much love, Mike and Cindy. Blessings. Thank you so much.
Yeah, many blessings, much love, and also gratitude, and grateful, a lot of gratitude for you guys for everything that you do. Running the gauntlet. When you think about the people that are first responders, people that are heading to emergencies, and you don't know what you're going to encounter, that takes a special person, and not everybody can do that and deal with that. It was interesting for me to find out how I could deal with that too. When I was running the retirement communities, I had to live on site. I had to live with the people in the communities I was, taking care of. And, I was the first one that would be there when somebody fell down in the middle of the night, or hit something or had a heart attack. And I would be the one that would call the EMTs and get them to come. And I would stay with the person until the EMTs were there. And then I'd talk to the family, So it was a real growing experience. It was one of my favorite things I've ever done. Honestly, it felt very, very fulfilling and satisfying, except for the fact that the corporations only cared about profit and loss and didn't ever care about people, which was really sad. And ultimately, that's where I just got so tired of the corporations that's why I left it. But I loved working with seniors, and everything has a purpose in this world. And I do think that when we get older, what's our purpose? We've had more experiences, so let's share what we know with our younger generations, and let's hope that they could do better than we did, just running with it.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, our first responders, they're like, number one right there on the battlefield, because they are heading off things. A lot of times there are disruptions because of the system that we live in, with things going on in all sorts of directions. Maybe it's, something domestic. Maybe it's, some other thing that's really horrible. And they're right there. They are right there. What a bright light. And um, you know, much love, always sending you tons of energy for doing that.
Renee, well, maybe we'll have to check it out. A series called The Burrows on Netflix about a retirement community. Yeah, maybe we'll have to take a peek at that. Staying in Love, Holding the Line, Rosebud Atkins. Yes, and Rosebud, we really appreciate you and everything that you've been sharing over these years. You guys are beautiful. Talk about beautiful. There's Cortez sighting in the house. Again, another one truly shining the love, but not afraid to call things for what they are when things are amiss. When you look at what's going on with China and the US, it's so obvious that there's this two trains on the same track heading for a direct conflict. When will that come? Well, the Polish psychic Krzysztof Tchaikovsky, he did recently, like about 3 nights ago, he did a session and he just picked a year, 5 years out, 2031. Timelines change. They can definitely change. But what's fascinating too is that I think there's some bigger events that are kind of meant to happen, but all the details can change. And individuals' experiences during these times can greatly change. I have no doubt about that. But what he was seeing in 2031 was we're still in this same drama. And, that sounds very exhausting. Honestly, it made me feel like it took a little of the wind out of my sails, if I'm totally honest. Like, oh man, because we want to shift gears. We want to get past this time period. It's so obvious what's going on, and it gets very, very frustrating when that script needs to be changed. We want it to be changed. The average people in China and Russia want it to be changed. But again, the people in power, they don't want anything to change. They want to stay in power. And unfortunately, they tend to be the most corrupt people on the planet. And that's how they got in that position in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a real mess. And let's see. No one all well and good for you to tell us we have to heal our souls, but no one ever gets real specific about exactly how. I know it's really difficult, and the reason that is because we are all extremely different. Every single person is at a different starting point in their healing journey. And we do actually have a lot of videos up on Heart's Home about how to even start that journey. And once you get your feet on the ground, you just, you do what's in front of you. And that's how you start to heal your soul. Is it your diet? I mean, your diet is huge. I cannot stress that enough. Every morsel, every crumb you put in your body, that is going to help heal your soul. So that's one way. I mean, the easiest way for me to really help people put their feet on the ground and say where to start, your diet. Start with diet. Start with clean water. Go to hygiene. It's really just stuff that is frighteningly basic, but you're right. No one really says it.
But in reality, at the same time, we have, and that's what we do with one-to-one sessions every single day, talking to people. So, I mean, we do our best. Nobody has all the answers, and the answer for person A is not necessarily going to be the same for B, C, D, and F. And it's everybody is seeing this world through their own lens. That's part of it. But on Heart's Home, yeah, we have 125 videos up on Ascension. There's 149 up on channeled messages, 102 exploring different dimensions. Wisdom teaching, 79 videos there. So, we spent a lot of time trying to share what we know with people. and how do you lift your frequency. And honestly, there's a lot in the channeled messages. How can you help heal yourself and the earth? This is one way. So yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen any of these, then go and check them out and find out. A lot of it depends on the person, depends on where you're at, depends on what you've been conditioned with from childhood. And it also depends on what you exactly have been programmed with. And society programs us. That's what we get. We get indoctrinated in school. We get indoctrinated in college, literally. Oh, what was your thesis then? Well, again, I got my doctorate in comparative philosophy or religion. It's we say these things without really thinking about what it means. But what it means is we've taken in knowledge, quote unquote, information based on certain perspectives that certain individuals were experiencing themselves or trying to, in some cases, sell us, unfortunately. But yeah, absolutely. There needs to be more of a focus on how do I, literally raise my frequency. And, I would share that, one of the easiest things to do is to give yourself time to disconnect from everything that's the false matrix. More time in nature, more time, and it is different for each person. Maybe more quiet time, maybe, obviously, we would recommend practice, a holistic practice, where you value all these different components pretty equally, like eating properly, taking in the best, healthiest food, exercising, but also exercising your mind in different ways. Taoist wisdom, Taoist philosophy. There is so much there that could really get you thinking. The Tao Te Ching, if you haven't read that, I would certainly read it and absorb it. Maybe take just one little chapter at a time and meditate on it. It's the same thing with the Yoga Sutras. You want to take each Yoga Sutra, like one day, just ponder it, meditate on it. These things will raise your frequency. Mind, body, breath practice. If you prefer Qigong or yoga, I mean, I do both, yoga and Qigong, on a daily basis, but we also hit the weights and we also do cardio every day. So for us, we've prioritized our holistic health, mind, body, spirit. And one of my favorite things to do lately has been to take a half hour, 40 minutes to go on a bike ride on the country roads in the back, away from traffic and just where I'm going to see more deers and rabbits than anybody else. And that always lifts me up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just kind of depends, but the thing is it's the surprisingly simple things that people think, "Oh, that's too simple to start with." Clean water. Oh my gosh, what clean water can do for your body and your mind. Most people's brains are actually dehydrated. And I saw Tracy in there needs a quick lift. What can I do immediately? Seriously, drink a lot of water, drink a huge glass of water. Charge it. Stay in the show today because it just feels good being around other people that are high vibrational. So, all we can do is our best. A lot of really, really good recommendations in the chat. Thank you, everyone, because it's hard out there for everyone.
Yeah, and again, if you want like detailed info too, just make an appointment and we'll go into your circumstance and see what we can do to help you as we do life coaching as well as energy work, biofield tuning. We again do a lot of. We put a lot of. We really focus on the Vedic astrology to give you a base point because. What does Vedic astrology tell you? It kind of tells you things like, why did you come into this world at this point in time? You could look and find information about past lives and see how successful they were and give you a big clue as to what you really wanted to achieve in life, in this life. And for me, I was just focused as a kid we always were week to week, paycheck to paycheck, with my parents. Money was always tight, but we always had good food, and we had a lot of love and all. But for me, it was the fact that we had to move as a kid a lot, and it was traumatic to me. So I had to, have my own house. And then when I hit that goal, and I actually bought my own house, literally at 21 or 22, I had been working for myself, since I was like 12 years old. So I was always hustling to make money to provide for myself because my parents didn't have a lot of money and they never gave me anything. I actually gave them a car. I never got a car from my parents, but they did give me a lot of love and support. And they were the most wonderful, loving couple that, honestly, you could think of. They were just amazing people. And I was super blessed to have them as parents because the love is ultimately the most valuable thing. But when I got the house, then all of a sudden I had a hole, in me. I had a huge hole, and that set me off on a spiritual journey in my 20s, which has never stopped. Never stopped. Yes.
I was just saying, when it comes to the energy, Talisha said they were stung like 6 times, and they they usually don't get stung, and just in the last 2 weeks, stung 6 times. There's something definitely going on with the frequency. There is a change, and I do think we are recalibrating, and in that recalibration, it can be tough. Tracy having trouble at work, look at that. You don't want to jump ship unless you have another job to go to, but in between, when you can, look for other work, even if it doesn't seem realistic. You have to start somewhere, start visualizing, and wonder what it would like to be in your best job ever. Just use that wonder. But I know there's something going on with the frequency and animals, all the attacks, and oh my gosh, yeah, there's crazy stuff.
Yeah, Talisha, you bring that up. And like yesterday, Cindy was helping me. I was putting a windshield on the motorcycle, and Cindy was there helping me. And then there was like a hornet that just it was going to land straight on Cindy, and they don't usually do that. And I don't usually get like these things attacking me. I have a knack with wildlife where usually I don't get attacked unless it's a tick. But then I got stung by a whole mound full of hornets like 10 days ago, and that was miserable. There is something going on. There is really something going on. I think that my suspicions are that they're putting out a frequency. The dark control matrix is putting out a frequency to get nature to literally attack us. It really feels like there's something unusual there.
Regina, that is huge. Remembering your dreams more now, that is huge. Oh my gosh, that excites me. When that starts to happen, that means you really are starting to process things and gain momentum. You go, girl.
Yeah, and the infrared is great, Tracy. So that's the right place to be. Again, the sun is so potent at this point in time. It feels way more powerful than it used to, and I could tell it's really working on our pineal glands. Anybody that is open to it and trying to not take in fluoridated water, trying to take in good food, I think you're going to be able to achieve amazing things in these coming years. That's the good part of things, is that the ascension process is quickening. It really is quickening. That's also why they're panicking and doing all this, because they're trying to stop it. So Trump is going back to the old Air Force One, he says, amid the Iranian threats, because, again, they're out to get him. There's a lot of people that don't like 47, obviously. He said that he's number one on the kill list for Iran. Well, obviously, they're at war. And when you think about it, wouldn't it be better if just the leaders went to war? They could do a one-on-one combat and leave the rest of us out of it. I think it would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? So anyway, he's ditching the new Air Force One for the old Air Force One. And the new Air Force One, well, that was a gift, and that caused a lot of concern as well. It's what's happening is the corruption is just being exposed. The corruption's on both sides. And here is the real big war. The biggest war is the fact that they realize they are losing humanity's belief. We don't believe in the leadership of this world anymore. What's happening? Well, every new car in the U.S. is going to be required by law to have tech that puts constant surveillance on the driver by 2027. AI in your car is going to determine if you're sober and fit to drive. I don't drink, so I'm not worried about it. But at the same time, I'm not really sure AI is going to get anything right because AI is constantly wrong. I was watching a show and it was translating. I forget what the language was, but it was mistranslating things constantly, and I understood what it meant. It's leaving out apostrophes, and it's getting the wrong words in place. And if your life is going to count on that because somebody might sentence you to something that you didn't ever do, then that's where everything changes. And the fact that they could shut down your car, lock you in your car until maybe a drone comes and then picks you up and takes you away and plops you somewhere in a jail somewhere until your case number gets heard. I mean, seriously, we're going to that place where you might not ever see a human. You might be, guilty of something. They say you're guilty. They might send drones or those robot dogs. You might not even be arrested by actual flesh and blood humans. You might not ever get to speak to one. This is the definition of hell that I see coming. It's like when you go and you want to talk to an actual human and you're talking to a huge company and you can never get to a human. Like we can't really, well, now thankfully we have a contact at Google, but before for YouTube, Google, we had no contact. And really, it's that case for all these big corporations where you're just getting these AI-generated loops. How about when they're actually charging you with crimes you didn't even commit? And we're going to be seeing some of this. The Flock, Palantir AI surveillance camera network used by the U.S. government is actively growing by 200-plus cameras a day. Enables real-time tracking, including vehicle, make, model, behavioral profiling. Yeah, welcome to pre-crime. Minority Report. No, that wasn't fiction. That was prophetic. This is where we are. This is post, and even probably during the World War III period. When does World War III actually end? I don't know. I think that's still something that's kind of up for grabs, so to speak. This is going to show you, this is January 2024 to July 2026. Every little blue dot is Flock cameras going up. They're doing this now because they're going to lose people. Actual people will no longer be filling the role of police officer, military personnel. That's going to all be drones and robotics. And this is how the few, 1/10 of 1%, maybe not even that much, will be able to control the many.
I know, it's horrible. I just want to bounce back to the cars really quick. I mean, this is horrible, and they just passed a law that you can no longer fix your own car. You have to take it to the dealership. The dealership has to fix it. And what if you're in the middle of a tornado and you need to get out of the way? I mean, your AI car is going to say, yeah, you don't quite look right. We'll just stay here a minute and, start taking you through some deep breaths while the tornado is barreling toward your car. I mean, this is deadly. This is deadly. And all of our politicians voted to pass this law where we cannot work on our cars. I mean, it's going to be a very, very chilly day in hell before we buy one of those new vehicles. I will hold on to what I have and with, my cold dead hands, just like I would a firearm. It's mine. No, I'm not getting rid of my old vehicle. And I think right now there's a tremendous opportunity for someone who might have the ability to get a 3D printer and open a garage and make it so that people can still order parts for their cars through a 3D printer or a machinist, because they're going to stop making parts for all the old cars. But what if somebody had the ability to customize making things, a machinist or a 3D printer, and let's say you just happen to have all the blueprints of everything that might possibly be needed. I mean, there is opportunity here. I think we need to look at things like that, but we have to push back. This is not okay, the laws that they passed, and it's every single politician is guilty. They let it pass. So what does that tell you? I mean, we're kind of on our own still.
Yeah, because really, again, the biggest criminals, they're actually, again, in the highest levels of government. So, yeah, this is the reality. It was funny. Klaus Schwab had made a comment once that, everything you do is going to be watched. And if you didn't do anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. Yet they found that somebody was spying on Klaus Schwab. And so he made a police report complaining about it. What's he worried about? He doesn't want any more of those videos coming out of him in the leather and the chaps? Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just reading through the comments. Let's see, where was it? Cortez, I was taught to work on cars since I was a kid. We are going to need that. Like I said, I smell opportunity.
Yeah, Cindy's dream vehicle is like a 1987 Suzuki Samurai.
Lifted stick shift. Gotta be stick shift. I love those stick shifts. I don't want anything but that.
Yeah, that's what I think with Cindy. It's like she's more like Annie Oakley. I remember we were just out in the desert at one point in time doing a little targeting, and she's a dead eye. She's got good aim. Just saying, you have to have real skills. You really do. You need to have real skills. This society, it hasn't been built in such a way to cultivate real skills. Honestly, when my first 10 years, I was in automotive management. So I used to run shops. I used to work on cars. I used to do all those things too. But that was going way back to before they were so computerized. So, there's not as much of a difference now between, somebody that's working on cars and somebody that's working on computers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I that the ability to shoot, I'm lucky because I'm ambidextrous. So when I do shoot something, I can go with either arm and I can do well. So if there's one thing I am really proud of myself, I am a good shot.
Yeah, and it's been a while, but I do love bow and arrows. So again, I'm definitely a retro type of person. Police in New Bern, North Carolina are asking the public's help identify these two men who just cut down brand new flock camera that was just installed. Police in Houston, Texas are asking the public help to identify a mystery person who cut down two flock cameras on Independence Day. They chopped them down. They put American flags in their place and painted the lenses.
Love it.
People are starting to rebel. This is just a reality. People are starting to rebel. They've been doing this in other countries too. And yeah, again, we are not advocating for anything. All that we would say is I think that we should be free. I think that, again, there is so much corruption in the higher places that to put your faith in, again, the people just that have been in charge. Look at the crime families. Look at the Bidens, look at the Obamas, look at the Clintons. That's just here in the U.S. You could look to, King Charles and Prince Andrew, and, how's their moral compass? I don't think it's very high at all. Here you go. You have more people doing what we were talking about. And also there are people taking down the FIVEG things as well. So, I mean, some people will just do it because they have this crazy energy. I mean, some people, this is how they celebrate when their team wins, like New York Knicks winning the championship and all. Some people, maybe they just want to be destructive. But here you go. A flock camera hit turned an innocent Colorado woman into a theft suspect. Let's listen to this one.
Cameras everywhere in that town. You can't get a breath of fresh air in or out without us knowing.
Chrisana Elzer learned the power of flock firsthand.
You were in town from 11:52 until 12:09. Exactly. Like I said, nothing gets in or out of the town without us knowing.
When a Colorado police officer showed up at her door holding flock snapshots of her truck.
And here's when you left. At 12:09. That's when you left town.
To get?
No, to stop at Ridge Trail.
Wait a minute.
And take a package. Well, there's no shushing. I don't
Yes,
need to
there
be.
is. I need to know where this is.
The first thing he pulled out on the body cam is that flock picture, the clear photograph of your car.
But here's your vehicle in the neighborhood many, many times, apparently casing houses, because you just can't drive through for work or visit other businesses. You can only be casing houses.
It is her. It is 100%. It is locked in. There is zero doubt. I wouldn't have come here unless I was 100% sure. 100%. It is certain. It is on video. You're obviously welcome to go to court.
Chrisana was charged with stealing a package, but it wasn't her. The porch pirate was somebody else. Multiple times you tried to show him your video evidence. He didn't want to see it.
No, even when I called him back, he said, that's not my job.
You looked at a time of a crime. You saw my vehicle entering in the flock.
No, what I did was, I did an investigation.
You called my wife a liar. You know this is fact.
I have video evidence. I don't know what you want me to say.
The charges were dropped after Chrisana spent weeks trying to get the police chief to look at her evidence.
And he needs to be released. Anybody that has that type of attitude, I mean, that pompous, arrogant, I mean, it's like, that's the type of thing that really fires me up.
I mean, isn't that horrible? I'm just listening to him, his certainty. In many ways, this was a very, very, very good example for us to show how miserably wrong they can be.
Yeah. And again, that's the type of person that shouldn't be in any position of power, because, if your mind is not open at all to other possibilities, then as it turns out again, she was innocent, but he was completely convinced that she wasn't.
Here, they zipped out of nowhere and immediately got behind me with the lights flashing.
There was no crime committed.
No, I don't have a warrant.
But Kyle Dosman is getting used to sitting in his car
I don't think this warrant has been on this car for very long.
and answering questions.
I continually am getting pulled over. I can't really use my truck in any fashion.
Kyle made sure his dash cam was recording yesterday after Cherry Hills Village police officers pulled him over near the same area Saturday.
Hello. Oh, we got you last week.
Yeah.
For the warrant.
I was driving through here yesterday, and I got pulled over again. It was actually by the same officer. You need my license?
No.
Okay.
I remember you, man.
Okay.
The Cherry Hills Village police say the Gilpin County Sheriff has a warrant out with Kyle's plate, and it was put on a flock camera hot list.
Everywhere in the state, every time I pass a camera, they get alerts in their car that I'm in the area.
The flock cameras did alert to his license plate being associated.
Over here, they zipped out of nowhere and immediately got behind me with the lights flashing.
There was no crime committed.
No, I don't have a warrant.
But Kyle Dosman is getting used to sitting.
So he's just getting used to taking abuse. And this is, again, mistakes, AI making mistakes. And then, this is happening all the time.
I think these are very important pieces of video that we need to prove that this is a really, really bad idea. This is not okay. So in so many ways, I'm sad that that woman was harassed. I'm sad that this man is being harassed, but we need this on tape. We need everyone to see this is not such a great idea, because there's too many people supporting it in the name of, this is going to make us safer. No, it's going to make us be under more control. And I think we need to switch out that word, because they use safe a lot. We need to put the word control, okay? Because that's what it's all about. Ultimately, it's about control.
Yeah, absolutely. When you recognize, too, that, the vast majority of Congress has received money from certain lobbies, and perhaps the vast majority of Congress somebody has dirt on them. And then you wonder, how does this legislation keep getting passed through? It's because somebody has dirt on them. Now, the reality is, they're never going to incriminate themselves, but unfortunately, they will harass and abuse very lawful, peaceful people.
Just got a $1,250 ticket in the mail for having my phone on my lap, face down, and both hands on the steering wheel. Pretty cool. Just got a $1,250 ticket in the mail.
And again, this is how they make money too, which is just horrible.
With all their wonderful technology to catch so many bad people, why are they still running free up in Washington? There's a lot that have done some pretty serious harm, and they're just, waltzing around like they're free. They don't have any problems. And, when these cops are busy pulling over and questioning innocent people, what neighbor is being brutalized down the street through domestic violence? Who is waiting on an ambulance, while innocent people are being questioned? I mean, this is a serious problem.
Yeah, ultimately, like the title, it's going down, the war to end all wars. The real war is against Big Brother. It's against the dark matrix. It's against the corrupt system, because this is just part of what we've been, fighting, and it's getting worse, and it's getting to be very, very blatant. Listen to this one.
The ACLU has brought forth a case against Flock and surfaced multiple issues with the technology. Per the ACLU, Flock tends to also lie to the public about what their technology is capable of doing and what type of government agencies are using their database. For instance, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Flock had told a city council that they do not create trafficking maps of cars, which was a lie. The city canceled their Flock contract after their lie was discovered. Flock also told Colorado police that the feds do not have access to their database. No feds. That was a lie. Flock has contracts with Homeland Security. Flock straight up lied to a city council in Illinois about their work alongside the ACLU, claiming that they were actually working with the ACLU on their technology. ACLU has never worked with Flock. In fact, they are challenging the company as we speak. There's more. Flock was used by Texas police to track a woman who crossed state lines after having abortion pill complications. So if you happen to live in a state that has effectively banned abortion and you've traveled outside the state in order to obtain the abortion pill, well, they're keeping track of you through Flock's technology.
Yeah, we get the picture.
It's just not okay. So I hope the pushback continues, and we need to do our part. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like rallying together and energetically pushing back where we can, but then getting involved at the local levels and finding out who is getting paid to put these cameras up, because I guarantee you they're not worried about what they're going to have for dinner tonight. They're feeding their children and their animals just fine because they're getting paid off, and that needs to stop.
Meanwhile, 5 former Georgia police officers been arrested and charged for allegedly misusing Flock cameras. This is according to Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Oh, you wonder about things. Here you go. The people misusing these things. Can they be misused?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking about right there. I'm telling you guys, one of the most important positions on the ballot is your sheriff position, and it's important that you elect a constitutional sheriff. This is awesome. Floyd County, Virginia Sheriff has announced that once the agreement with Flock comes to an end in August, that the cameras will be removed from the county. So they're getting.
So again, I think we can change things locally. That's the point. I think we, as individuals, we have a big effect locally. It's going to take a lot more work to change things in a federal sense, but in our own, little communities, our counties, getting the right person in place that could have a big difference in the scheme of things.
Yeah, we need to keep pushing. So this is wonderful that this happened, but it's happening at these lower levels. And if you're one and you have time and you can make a phone call, or you can, you can ask the questions, please get out there, be active in your community wherever you can safely.
And then there's things to realize. You have Representative Scott Perry calls for flock cameras to be banned. This is talking about different companies out there, related companies. But, most flock cameras are purchased with federal grants. That means it's our taxes. So they take our taxes to then, again, police us in sometimes either very, very illegitimate ways, or with just even wrong information. It's just what we've seen time and time again, with these budgets. And where did the 1 point whatever trillion go in this defense thing? Well, we don't know. It's just missing. It's just corruption. It's just blatant stealing. And again, here you go. Flock cameras have been found at bike paths, nature trails, public parks, wilderness areas, community pools, reproductive clinics, schools, and preschools, entrances to state parks, gyms and recreation, and children's gymnastics. They're tracking everybody. And now when we really get all the dirt coming out at the people in the highest places, you got to wonder what they're using some of the video for.
Yeah, it's becoming a bigger mess, and I think we need to put the brakes on it in any way that we can, in a calm, civil way. I cannot stress that enough. We cannot meet chaos with chaos. It just doesn't work. You have to meet chaos with calm, so that chaos can, meet you at your level, because the chaos it's going to regulate to your calm and your calm level. It's so important to have your ducks in a row before you go out and try to deal with something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. There was this one lady she lost her kids after they did a certain thing that was recommended to do, that thing that like 65-70% of the people in the U.S. did. And in some other places, less, and some other places more. And she was put in jail for claiming that it was the what that really did it. But when you look at it, this should be the head of all the headlines, but it's none of the big media companies, none of the big media outlets are really covering what was the biggest crime against humanity in our lifetimes. And literally, again, people speak up and they get thrown into jail or, worse.
Yeah, this is just not okay.
Faithful Amish parents in schools are now facing $118,000 in crushing fines, or they got to do certain thing for their kids. Now, that religious exemption thing, it's being changed again by the Supreme Court. You got to look and share what you believe. Like, again, I would move out of a state, I would move out of a country before I would do these things that I know in my mind is just, it's not even slightly healthy. Nobody should have the ability to enforce this on us, especially because, if they really believe it works, then why are they worried in the first place? Because if they did something because they believed it really worked, now shouldn't that protect them against anybody that has whatever it is, It's just ridiculous, and this is really part of the bigger thing that we should be talking about, but it's being again buried and covered up.
Yeah, this is again not okay.
And then Trump wanting to secure enough glyphosate, that's just insanity. It is so insanely toxic, pretty obvious. Living within a 1 mile radius of a golf course increases your risk of Parkinson's by 126%. Why? Because those green lawns are drenched in chemical warfare. Glyphosate. Yeah, I mean, my old brother-in-law, that's what he did. He worked for Chemlon, and he got a very rare form of lymphoma, and luckily he had stem cell therapy, which helped him, and he did some alternative things. So it wasn't looking good, but he did some alternative things, and he recovered. But securing enough glyphosate for this country, that's insane. It makes, to me, absolutely no logical sense. And we do not eat farm fish. Any fish that you see, it's labeled, is it wild caught or is it farmed? Anything that's farmed, I wouldn't eat it. That's just me. I won't touch it. We'll just ignore it. We'll eat something else.
Yeah, we'll do something different.
Yeah, because again, there's been so many things added to them. Oh, it's just very, very, in my mind, very, very unhealthy. Here we have von der Leyen launching a grave threat, calls to shut down media and social networks in Europe. And again, when you look at it, they've taken tax money from Europeans in order to basically take away the ability of Europeans to complain about what's being done by unelected officials. She's not an elected official. And yet they are, absolutely. The EU, it's, in my mind, it's one of the worst political organizations going, where the people are really getting the least for their money. And again, it's just one of the more corrupted ones, but there's corruption everywhere.
Oh, it is. We're saturated in it right now.
Yeah. So, again, when you look at her and her husband, they've benefited directly. They have made hundreds of millions off of everything that's gone down, in the last 10 years and certainly in the last 6 years or so. They make all the right monetary moves, just like what we see with Nancy Pelosi and others in Congress. Some views of the terrain scorched by the massive aspen fires in southern Colorado. This one has cracked the top 10 as far as Colorado's largest wildfires in recorded history. It's only 16% contained. So, again, we send out our prayers and best intentions. And, you'll probably see some houses gone, but some trees perfectly fine, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but we're sending energy out that way for all of our loved ones.
Yes, absolutely. We definitely need a change in this world. Wildfires not just going in Colorado, Portugal, Greece as well. Record conditions ongoing. It just seems every year it's like a new record. Lightning, they say, was believed to have sparked a house fire in Chesterfield County, Virginia. Again, the storms, they're all over the place. And we had an EF2 tornado, injured 2, damaged homes near Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And of course, the extreme heat, which I've seen some sources saying that the extreme heat has taken thousands of lives in Europe. And here we're talking about Montana, Wyoming, and Utah. Again, records of over 110. It's records. It's one record after another. And how many typhoons turn into super typhoons? It seems like a lot of them do nowadays. Super Typhoon Bavi maintained Category 4 equivalent intensity over the Philippine Sea on the 8th, with maximum sustained winds of 155 miles an hour and higher gusts. And it should weaken gradually before passing very close to Taiwan and Japan's Yaeyama Islands around the 11th, and a landfall in China around the 12th. So again, we send our prayers to everybody over there. And this is just another weird case with nature attacking people. In this case, it was an 86-year-old woman who died after being attacked by the family dog in Moore, Oklahoma. There's something really weird going on here.
Yeah, with bugs and attacks with domestic animals and wild alike. There's really weird energy coming through, and I don't think these attacks are okay. I think there's something about frequency that's irritating them.
And when we look at these stats about wealth distribution, the one takeaway is the fact that the haves are getting more than ever by a mile. In fact, again, it simply is, it's being consolidated. The wealth is being consolidated into basically 1/10 of 1% of the people kind of owning a disproportionate amount of wealth compared to everybody out there. Financial equality, it's not getting better. It's getting way worse. Everything we are doing systemically, we should change. I mean, it's not working for the average person. And this is looking at 1989 and then looking at April of 2025. So when you look at the top 1/10 or 1%, back in 89, they owned 8.6% of all the wealth. Now 14.5%. The top 1% at that point in time owned 14.2% of the wealth. Now 17.4%. So you get the picture. It's a case where the bottom 50% only owns 3.5% of the wealth of the planet in 89, and now it's only 2.5%. That's ridiculous. The system doesn't work. But if the system is being made so that everybody is slaves besides an elitist corporate elite, really, then it makes perfect sense because their plan is obviously working.
It does. Where are we at? I think one thing that I don't think is a great idea is they say, well, just leave the system. Just leave the system. Well, that's not possible. It is not possible. The system kind of has us surrounded. But what we can do is just be very mindful of what you decide to spend your money on and how much you're willing to pay for a certain thing. They're putting in these new trials at Walmart where they're going to charge you what they think you will pay. So, you might pick something up and by the time you get it to the register, it's 40 cents more because they've deemed based on your history that you would pay more and you can pay more based on your income. So I think it's really important if something looks overpriced, don't get it. Just don't get it. Do something different.
We know where they're going with this because where they're going is you're going to get like a UBI, a universal basic income. And let's just say it was $2,500 a month. What you don't spend of that $2,500 will disappear. And you won't be able to save, but you'll get a refreshed $2,500 next month. This is part of what they've put this out there. They've talked about this before. This way, whoever has the power at that point in time will always have the power. And the rest will have no way of ever, climbing up the ladder, so to speak.
Yeah, no way to attain comfort and always forever being, vulnerable to the system because you can never get ahead. I think this is almost like our last hurrah where we're going to have to not push back, shove back and take our sovereignty. And, everyone has the right to feel safe and secure and have padding around them if that's what they wish to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2 hours is now too long for the ideal movie length. What does this show? The fact that people are also, they don't want the long movies. Some of them recently have been pretty long. What does that show? I mean, again, I think it shows ADD, ADHD, the fact that we're in a society where it's been cultivated that people have a very short attention span because they want you forgetting about the news items that are getting you mad. They want you forgetting about things like the E-files. They want you forgetting about all these different things that have been shown that incriminates the leadership of this world. they need to have your attention span shortened. And that's exactly what's happening. And this, although it's talking about movies, it really, really does show. Boomers, 93 minutes is the preferred time span of a movie. Generation X, 89. Millennials, 86. Generation Z, 82. And then the Odyssey, which is coming out this summer, is 172 minutes. So how many people will really go and watch the Odyssey? What it is again, it's attention deficit disorder that's basically being cultivated. It's all about, again, overloading our bodies and our minds so we cannot think clearly.
Yeah, if you have an overload of information, you can't really retain anything because you just can't. I mean, it's too full. So that quiet time becomes even more precious and more sacred as the days tick on, and they keep putting all the technology, and the problem is we are allowing it, and we need to not allow it. There's got to be a boundary, and I think there can be boundaries, and I think that's okay. I mean, boundaries are very important. And the only reason anyone would get angry about a boundary is if they're just angry because they can no longer push you around or they cannot walk on you. So boundaries are a sign of respect. And if those boundaries get shoved, then you know what you're dealing with. And I think, we need to have our own individual boundaries set when it comes to this technology, and just keep on keeping on.
The difference between a border collie and a husky, it's a matter of perspective. You might say the border collies are so smart because they're so trainable, but maybe the husky is just being his own individual and is just going to go by the beat of his own drum, so to speak. When you look at dogs, what do you see? All different shapes, sizes, breeds, etc. We know people have bred dogs for different purposes. When you look at humans, you have pygmies, right? We do have some that are literally not even 4 feet tall, and then you have others that are 8 foot tall giants or more. All different types of humans too, which some have equated with the fact that maybe there's been human breeding programs. Maybe they're really trying to create the perfect slave race that won't question things. And maybe they're also trying to get rid of those that question everything.
Oh, yeah. I think they don't like people who can think for themselves. And that's why we don't really have too many views, because we teach people to think for themselves. It's great to get guidance. By all means, get guidance. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you are the one who has to decide if that guidance is right for you, or do you need to adjust it? But by getting guidance, you have some alternatives and some ideas of what might work for you. So, really helping people step into their own power and create their own future, their own visual. That's our passion.
And Cindy's going to give us some dings, and I will say Loka Samasta Suki no Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. And truly, that is my heart's wish. If we were all free and we could all, clearly live together peacefully, then, man, we could anything could happen. The world could turn into a heaven on earth really quickly, a generation or two at most. Again, it's all about this transition period right now, and we have to push for that transition. So again, Loka Samasta Suki no Bhavantu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. That is what we wish.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And I just want to say a quick thank you again to Miss Sandy K. We truly appreciate your support. Robbie running the gauntlet. You guys, thank you so much for this evening. It was very, very kind, and we truly appreciate it a lot. Mods, everyone who gave us a thumbs up, made a comment, all the things. You guys are wonderful for just showing up and spending your time with us. We know time is very valuable, and you spent it with us, and we appreciate appreciate that.
Yeah, and I want to just say that again. You guys could spend your time with anyone, and you chose to spend it with us. That is a huge blessing. Thank you so much.
Okie dokie. So we're going to do some dings here. Let's see. What do I need? Oops, hold on. Oh, here we go. I found him. Okay, you guys, you know the drill. Think happy thoughts. Drink lots of water after the dings. It's so important. And here we go. Why, hello there, Mustang Guide Chris. Take good care of yourself. Good to see you. Source bless and namaste.